Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. I am Dr. Drshida Shamsuddin from the Faculty of Education. Today I'm going to present my paper based on the project that we conducted early last year, which on the topic of a cloud-based education. So cloud-based education is purposely designed for the tuition projects, especially for students in the rural areas. So to start, I believe some of us have heard about what is cloud-based educations, or perhaps some of you also heard some of the words like Moodle, Blackboard, or Brightspace, or even we in UITM, we utilize a lot on the cloud-based education, or in other words, we use learning management system. So for this project, we try to implement cloud-based education specifically for rural kids in subject of mathematics. So this was some of the pictures that involved in our project. So all right, as an introductions, what is cloud-based education? So cloud-based education is also known as online learning or e-learning, which is a popular mode that has been widely used among us. And with the advancement of the technology from the internet and the wide use of a lot of gadgets as simple as a smartphones, not talking about laptop, everything related to cloud-based education has become more valuable. And in Malaysia, cloud-based education is touted as a solution to the country's education problems, such as amongst the poor quality of education, which some of the school they have limited numbers of teachers or low enrollment rates. And so cloud-based education is one of the new form of education that has received significant attention in the recent years. So cloud-based education refers to the use of cloud computing technology, which to deliver the educational content and resources over the internet use. And with the cloud-based educations, students, teachers can access all the learning resources at any time or anywhere as long as there is internet connections. Right. So, what is the adoption of the cloud-based education in Malaysia? Have you heard about? I believe some of us have heard about this word. It's a one Bestari Net projects, which way back in 2000s, late 2000, which the Ministry of Education has tried to implement this kind of project all over the school throughout the country. And the aim of this project was to promote cloud-based educations. So, besides yeah, we heard a lot of issues related to this project. However, according to the study that has been conducted, even though the total acceptance for this kind of cloud-based education was a bit low in the early years of the implementations, but somehow with the COVID comes in, cloud-based education becomes more popular and it is highly needed among the schools and the institutions. So the implementations in Malaysia of the cloud-based education, even though it's a relatively low, but the Malaysian government has recognized the potential benefits of cloud-based education and has made a lot of efforts to integrate them into the education system. So as we know, when the COVID pandemic 19 comes in, there are significant numbers of online learning and remote learning has been promoted among the teachers and students as well. And where this comes in, cloud-based education becomes popular again among the Malaysian educators, schools and students as well. So cloud-based education in Malaysia promote the use of digital devices such as laptops, tablets and smartphones, especially in the rural areas. And additionally, some institutions also offering online degrees and certifications, which are students more flexible and they can access their learning options at any time, at anywhere. So these are the current landscape of the current state of a cloud-based education. However, as we can see, as I mentioned earlier, the implementation of cloud-based education in Malaysia was not quite popular early way back in 2000s, even though there were a big project under the government, the Malaysian Ministry of Education. However, as you can see, there is many challenges that Malaysians educators need to cope and they have to face several challenges, including the limited access to technology, low levels of digital literacy, and the lack of supports in terms of the infrastructures. So, additionally, in rural areas, often face limited access to reliable internet, which can limit the effectiveness of the cloud-based educations. So these are among the challenges and barriers to the implementation of cloud-based education in rural areas that we can conclude from the literature review was if as of course is the internet connectivity, which the poor or limited internet access is one of the biggest barriers to the online resources and participations in the virtual classes. Secondly, is on the digital divide. Digital divide. There is digital divide between rural and urban areas kids, where as we understand, rural from students, students from the rural areas have limited access to digital devices and the internet, which it prevents them to fully participate in the cloud-based educations. Thirdly, is in terms of the cost. The cost of accessing the internet, digital devices, and cloud based education resources can be some barriers for rural families as they have some limited financial resources. All right, and last but not least, in terms of the culture resistance, some rural communities they resist to change and they're a bit skeptical of any new technologies that make it challenging to implement cloud-based education effectively in Malaysia. So to overcome these challenges and barriers, it will be important to ensure that all rural students in Malaysia have access to reliable internet, they have enough money to get digital devices, enough teachers with a good trainings, as well as we also address any cultural and financial barriers to implement cloud-based education fully in Malaysia. So, for this purpose of this project, we try to implement this cloud-based education to support our tuition project, which we found that it is a bit tedious to bring a lot of teaching materials for students, especially in the rural area, that is quite difficult to access. So we believe that having the LMS could eventually help the teachers to bring all kind of materials, up-to-date exercise worksheets and textbooks for the student in rural areas, especially for this project, for this tuition project. So we try to come up with the LMS. However, before even we could develop fully the LMS system for these kids tuition project, we try to get some perspectives. What are their perspective and their perceptions and their views about cloud-based educations, adaptations, especially for their teaching and learning materials. So for this project, we try to research on use on a mixed method approach to gather comprehensive data on the perceptions of the implementation of cloud-based educations. So we try to use quantitative and a qualitative approach, which we try to employ purposive samplings, which universities to lecturers who have experience in a cloud-based educations be targeted, and the sample come from various teachers, lecturers, and a group of students. And we also can distribute some question as well. So this is our project for the tuition for the mathematics tuition project that we try to develop as a part of learning materials for our cloud-based educations, which consists from standard 1 until standard 6. And as a result, all right, the descriptive analysis aim to examine the perspective from the teachers, students of the rural areas in terms of the implementation of a cloud-based education program. So, so these are some of the findings that we found from the students' perspectives. First of all, in terms of the access and connections, students shows that indicate students face a little bit of difficulties when it comes to connections. As from the qualitative perspective, they give some of the opinions, some input to us that they have difficulties to access to the internet connections, good internet connections, because some of the families they have some limited fundings when it comes to provide internet internet connections to their kids. 65% of the students reported they face challenges in terms of the connections. In terms of device availability, we can see that students, most of them, they had access to their personal devices. With the current technologies, some of the smartphones are quite cheap nowadays. So some of the family and they are afford to get the smartphone and as well as tablets to be some of the learning materials for the students. In terms of the engagements and motivations, the mean score shows that there is high level of motivations. Yes, our students shows that they are really excited when it comes to learn, which they have to engage with a certain gadget. So therefore, it's interesting having this kind of device around them instead of having a normal textbook. So in other words, this kind of project, when there is integrations of devices, it increase somehow students' motivation and engagement in their studies, which due to the interactive nature of the cloud-based education program. In terms of flexibility and convenience, yes, it shows that 92% of the students, they appreciate the flexibility and the assessing of the educational resources at their own pace and at their own convenience. Some of them said that they can still have their favorite sports when they come back from school, and at the same time they also feel enthusiastic when it comes to study, when it comes to do tuitions, extra homework that they have to do. When it comes to engage with certain devices, students shows 92% happy towards the integrations of LMS in their part of their teaching and learning activities. And of course, 68% shows that in terms of technical support, that yes, these kids, even the students, they need a better technical support because a majority come from a poor family in the rural areas. They may need some assistance from the parents, such as to log in, to remember password, and even to have some a little setting in the LMS. They need some guidance from the parents. However, most of the parents in the rural area, they are not competent in terms of using technology in their life, especially for teaching and learning activities. However, for the teachers' perspectives, as you can see, teachers shows that in terms of trainings and professional development shows that they have a moderate levels in terms of the preparedness and readiness towards the integrations of a cloud-based educations in their teaching practices. And then secondly, from in terms of the resources utilizations, there is 4.3 out of 5 indicate that they found that this kind of educations program is quite beneficial to them, and 8% of the teachers shows that they see there is some benefits that they could gain in these programs. In terms of collaborations and communications, teachers shows that they appreciate the enhancements of collaborations and communications that they could get through the integration of the cloud-based platforms. And in terms of the assessment and evaluations, as you can see, the numbers of the percentage is a bit low, 65%, because the concerns of in the effectiveness of assessing students through the cloud-based assessments. As you can see, they said that the students not so focused compared to when they use textbook, and students have the freedom to access to other internets media or internet's websites rather than the teaching and learning activities in the LMS. And last but not least, in terms of the infrastructure constraints, 3.6 of them indicates a moderate challenges, which 70% of the teachers reported there is insufficient technological infrastructures in their schools. So with this, we are aware in terms of the teachers' perspective as well as the students. As you can see, there is a lot of positive insights that we can get from the students' perspectives. However, a little bit, there are some aspects that we need to be cautious when it comes to teachers and parents. So as conclusions, from at the end of this research, a small research that we tried to conduct before we can as a part of the activities when we try to implement our project. Okay, so this little research somehow could give us more understandings about the implementation of a cloud-based education, especially in the rural areas. So to conclude, cloud-based education in Malaysia has a lot of potential to address a lot of educational challenges faced by the Malaysian students, especially in the rural areas. In other words, for this case, there are so many stakeholders involved in this kind of project. Somehow, before even they could proceed with this kind of project, they need to adhere a lot of aspects in terms of before they could proceed more in for this kind of a project. So because is quite uncertain the acceptance of technology, as we can see that we have a generational gaps between students, the millennial students, as well as parents and teachers. And for this, I would like to end my presentations with that. Thank you. And I would like to share with you, this is some part of the pictures that we took throughout the projects of mathematics tuition project when it comes to the usage of our LMS for the rural kids. And we had these projects in the Dewan Raya, and we gone to quite numbers of schools in the rural area that we identified around Selangor and Perak. With that, thank you and Assalamualaikum.